Hey guys, March is the start, or it is not the start, of vaccine month for us here at Health Sprouts. So signifies the start of vaccine month here in March. So what we're going to talk about, and we've got, kind of 4 weeks that we're really talking about this. We're kind of jamming it in with heart health still too. So the topics that we're going to be addressing as we get into vaccine month, for each week, I'm going to try to put a little bit more information out about these. So we're going to start off with COVID. So the initiation is going to be getting into COVID, understanding this COVID vaccine, the differences between COVID vaccines, what they are, what our thoughts are, and why. So a lot of you know my thought already, but why? That's really important. And please just bear with us for a minute here so that you can understand a little bit more about my why on vaccines in general. I'm going to hit that here today, and then we'll do more as we go over the next 4 weeks. Week 2, childhood vaccines, kind of where are we today? Where did that come from? How did we move to the place that we are today? What was the urgency behind that? Why did we get to this place that we're at? And an example of that, what was the urgency behind a chickenpox vaccine? So for most of you who remember chickenpox, you'd think, well, yeah, why is there a vaccine? It seemed like that was no big deal. Was that something that was being demanded by parents? Well, of course not. So understanding what that motivation was and where that came from helps us to understand why we are where we are today. And of course, as we talk about all these, we're going to talk about what's in the vaccines as well. And I go and mention chickenpox. Chickenpox is a vaccine that most people who are in this world know is actually grown in aborted fetal tissue, and you'll actually see human diploid cells are listed as one of the ingredients, and it's because as you basically extract components that you're using for the vaccine, you're getting some human cells which are from aborted fetal tissue, which personally I have something extremely strong against that. I'm against that idea. So, all right, week number 3, we'll talk about flu vaccine, and that's the big thing there is, well, where have you been, where do you fall, why, and what's different today, if anything, as we then head back into more on COVID. So, a couple of things. So, I am a self-proclaimed anti-vaxxer, but that idea anti-vax would suggest that I'm just totally against the idea of vaccines. And I have been known to say I am actually for the theoretical idea of a vaccine. I just feel as though there's 2 things that have yet to ever be achieved. One is effectiveness. I don't believe the efficacy of a vaccine has yet ever gone beyond the potential of the human immune system. So I believe that if I care for my own immune system, and part of caring for an immune system is to openly and actively seek interaction with viruses in the world. So I'm not a clean freak then. I'm just the opposite. And I believe that is because I'm a creationist. Even if I was an evolutionist, I would still have some of this, which I would basically be saying, it appears as though the quality of someone's immune response is based upon a pile of factors, of variables. And some of those would be based upon life choice. So we could say environmental factors that relate to diet, to exercise, to sleep, to stress levels. And I would then also go on to say to neurological effectiveness or efficacy, so that drives immune system function. But then that would be one set of variables, and I would have another set of environmental variables, which would be the non-quantifiables. So these are kind of quantifiable over here, and then we get over to the non-quantifiable, which would get us primarily into exposure to like pathogens. And so I've been exposed to COVID-19 a number of times now with actively sick people, not asymptomatic who got a test later, actively sick, coughing, sneezing, fever, all that stuff. Now, at least 7 times, and once in my own household, and I have not gotten ill ever, nor do I have antibodies. So then if I have an immunity to it, it wouldn't be an acquired antibody-based immunity, but something else. on the innate side, and I believe that is heavily due to my interaction with other similar viruses over the years. And so just to get into it real quick while we are on this topic, and then I'll move on. If you look at antibody bands, so we have bands of antibodies, so there's just a specific component of an antibody that puts it in a band. And let's say that I'm testing negative on this singular band for COVID-19, but I could test positive for an antibody slightly up and slightly below that band, meaning antibodies that have the potential to fight off COVID-19 just fine, but it's not the exact antibody that's created to COVID-19. That is what I believe so many people have actually had to COVID-19, which is why this disease has not been so significant relative to what the thoughts would be as far as how many people get serious illness or die under the age of 70. Right? So, all right, so there we go. So as we go into just kind of discovering this then, and we really try to uncover why Eric's an anti-vaxxer, all I'm saying is, I love the idea that I would never have to get sick ever again because a vaccine can exist that would keep me completely free of all risk. That's really awesome. I don't believe, again, the effectiveness is there. So I believe we measure our need for public health by the least common denominator. I've been using that terminology for over a decade and saying I'm absolutely against the idea that we cater all decisions to the least common denominator, because what I believe that does is it weakens higher function and brings people down further and further and closer to least common denominator, which is not at all the absolute most effective potential. Right? It's not the highest potential. It's not elite status of function, which is where I think we should all really subscribe to. We should all thrive and strive, in this path towards my most maximal function. Certain things that we choose to do tend to take away from that, which now the question becomes, if it's not the most effective way to fight off illness, then why do we do it? Oh, because it's the easiest, fastest way. It doesn't require changes to your lifestyle. But then, is it truly effective? Does vaccination equal immunity? And we know it doesn't if we're paying attention to COVID right now. And it's the first time people are really paying attention to these numbers, I think, is right now. So what a great opportunity for us to help educate as to why I've arrived at this place. So then the second reason, so I see a lack of efficacy, but then I also see a lack of safety. And that's not my biggest. So for a lot of people who are in that anti-vax kind of movement, it's safety. It's, show me the safety studies. Show me that it's safe for my kids. Show me that it's safe for me. Show me the safety. And I look at that and I say, I think there's an issue there as well, but I do believe that there's a risk-reward potential there that could be worth it if the effectiveness was there. I have yet to see data that suggests it's effective. And the reason why, and we'll uncover this more, especially through childhood vaccines, is because the CDC themselves had published data for years demonstrating, and you can still find it, the prevalence of vaccine preventable diseases, the prevalence of these diseases over time. And as we look at charts and graphs and we can see the high prevalence reduced down to very low prevalence, in just about every single situation, we will see that prevalence had dropped significantly due to naturally acquired herd immunity before artificial herd immunity was even available. Meaning, before there was ever a vaccine available to reduce your risk, the risk was going down because people were fighting through these diseases and getting well. And you might say, yeah, but some people were dying, and some people were dying. And I'm going to take you right back to that place to help you understand that vaccines don't somehow just eradicate the idea that infectious diseases are going to kill. They don't just say, you know what, no infectious disease will ever kill again. Not true. We've seen it. We've seen outbreaks that have happened in vaccinated populations. In the last few years, we've seen it with pertussis, whooping cough. We've seen it with measles. We've seen it with mumps. These things are still around. They still pop up, and they still pop up in vaccinated individuals, meaning immunity, the best immunity, is the one that you carry around with you all the time, regardless of vaccination, which would be your natural immunity, that's acquired through natural interaction with like viruses. All right. Hope you guys enjoy what I've got in store for you. I do believe that I am an educated individual in this area. I know sometimes the people out there who don't want to listen or don't want to have an open mind would just assume that on my side of the fence, we're just a bunch of scared housewives who had a friend with autism who blamed vaccines and we just fell for it. That's not the case. All right, thanks guys.